Gerald, my friend, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. I'm good. How are you? Yeah, I just shoved in dinner because it's what is it? It's now 6:30 p.m.
There you go.
So we usually have dinner around 5, 6. So I just chugged it
Yeah.
in and came straight here to be with you. How are
Hey,
you? You're still in
uh,
the kitchen, I see.
yeah, well, I should actually change that to being on the beach because we are almost getting ready here for Maui.
Ah,
So, Gerald, if you're ready, I'm going to bring up your desktop here.
absolutely.
Folks, if you do not know, Gerald's handle is right there, his Twitter handle. YouTube is the same. That way, yep. And Gerald is a little star, if I may say. He puts out just
Thank
about
you.
amazing videos that kind of bring you up to speed as to what's going on with .NET MAUI. How can you run the latest bits? What are some things to consider? So thank you for what you do week in and week out, Gerald. So yeah, there you go. Bring up your YouTube.
I'll bring it up really quickly, just to point out that it actually isn't. I have everywhere like this Gerald Versluis, which is like my initials.
Yeah.
But for my YouTube channel, I couldn't do it. So that is like Gerald Versluis, one word. That's my channel. 2 videos a week, mostly about Xamarin, Azure, other stuff. Quick plug right here. So thanks for the shout out, Sam. I appreciate
Yeah.
it.
All right. So you have been on this .NET MAUI journey from when was the first preview? Was it in February, right? Maybe a
Yeah,
little
something
later.
like that.
Yeah.
Something like that.
So we are like half a dozen previews in, and we're talking to Maddie and Javier today. The story and the tooling is coming together, but
Yep.
still the bits are preview. So what's new? What excites you about preview 6?
Yeah, so let's talk about it. Well, it's interesting that you mentioned like, hey, the bits are preview because I've had a couple of people come up to me, which it totally makes sense. Like, I see where the preview is right now, but it's really hard to start because Visual Studio is not great because we don't have the templates yet. .NET MAUI is still missing a lot of stuff. Is it all going to be okay by November? Because in November it's going to be released, right? And I tell them I can see your concern because for us, at least on the Microsoft side, it's fun to work on, and we're like it will be okay. But other people are dependent on this for like their day job, right? They're making money with this, so they want to know what's going on. I can totally understand that. But you have to understand that there is so many teams and so many moving parts right now. Like Visual Studio for Windows is a separate team. Visual Studio for Mac is a separate team. MAUI is a separate team. Then that's going up into .NET 6 as a whole, which is a whole dozen of other teams. So there's so many things going on right now, and it's hard to time everything for it to come together. So right now, with also like the Visual Studio on Windows, the templates are not quite there. They just missed the cutoff there. But there are kind of workarounds for everything. That's kind of the charm, I would say, of working with the preview bits, right? So I guess that is what you have to keep in mind if you're going to look into this. But yeah, so let's start with David. I just see him in the chat, so he'll be pleased that I've put his face up here. Announcing .NET MAUI Preview 6. I think we started at 2. They cheated a little bit. And now we're up to 6, and each time a little bit is added more. I think for Preview 6, originally it was planned to have all the controls and all the things in there. To be completely honest, I was having dinner, so I didn't see Maddie or Javier's session, so I'm sorry if I'm repeating some stuff here. But yeah, not everything also there made it in there yet, because we're all developers, right? We know that we're bad at estimating, or everyone is bad at estimating, basically. We can't look into the future. So, I think now on the roadmap for Preview 7, it is the target to have everything in there, and from there, do just bug fixes and make everything complete and make everything work. For .NET 6, so it says right here, we're all in on Visual Studio 2022 Preview 2. So I'll show that in a little bit. So actually, that brings me also directly to, back to the experience if you want to get started now. The best experience that you probably have right now is on Windows with Visual Studio 2022 Preview 2. The only thing that you're missing right there is the templates that are not inside of Visual Studio. But actually, the command line .NET New MAUI is even quicker than going File, New, Project, OK, whatever, blah, blah. So, it's even better, actually. So that is the best experience right now. And I would say, running either like the UWP project or the Android project, because for iOS, a Mac is usually the best place to be. But we'll get to that in a little bit. So new capabilities are added, which is mostly gestures, modal pages, view clipping, native alerts, flex alert, and a little bit more. We'll get to that. I'm not just going to read this blog post, but then you'll get a good overview of what's going on. So I think this is an important thing as well, the workload installation. So if you've been running installers of Visual Studio, then you know that things are now called a workload. So you can install a workload for Windows development, for Azure development, for, I don't know, web development probably. All kinds of things, and Maui is going to be a part of that. So that's just going to be a checkbox that you can check and you will get all the things. But they did even a little bit further. So you have Maui, which is both Maui mobile and desktop. But if you want to have only the desktop or only the mobile, then you can install those separately as well. Now, again, this will be in the installer, but right now it's just a command line option. And also what you want to check is like, hey, which versions of .NET do I have installed? Now, I'm not going to complete this whole run. So what you can do is .NET SDK check, because it takes some amount of time. And I'm gonna say here that I probably have a lot of .NET things installed here. But what it does is check all the versions that you have installed on your machine, because that is the power of the new .NET and the .NET Core, right? You can all run them side by side, which is great. But I think what it does is it shows you the versions, like what have you installed locally, but it also goes out to the big bad internet and sees like, hey, if there are any updates that you should get for this version, any patches to see. Like here, we can see patch yada yada is available. So I think per version, it also does a couple of other checks that will give you some more information. So if it all runs, then you can see that this is all installed in on your machine. And what you want to have for this is the last one right here. I'm not sure if it really shows up on your screen. Oh, here we go. So here we have a couple of .NET 6 versions, and right now we're at Preview 6. So here you can see if you have that installed. Now, the other thing, the workloads is the actual. So here you have the .NET framework installed, and the workloads are then kind of like the actual things that you can build within .NET 6. So for that, we also have a command right now, which is the .NET workload list. And I think Maui is kind of like the first one to leverage this, because it will only show you like the Maui stuff right now. I think the naming for everything except Maui is going to change a little bit, but you can here see the workloads, and I think you can also install them here with .NET workload install and then the name probably or something like that. So that's kind of the things that you can check. Now, if you've been looking into the previous previews, you might remember that there was also the Maui check tool. Let me see if I can quickly pull that up. That is a tool which kind of does this, not now, but a little bit better, I would say, because this is also created by the team that's working on .NET MAUI, and this will get you all the prerequisites for .NET MAUI, basically. You can just install this as a .NET Global tool, and you can just say MAUI check. So I have it installed, actually, so I can say MAUI check. And it will go through all the things that you need to actually start with Maui. So also with each preview that comes out, it will see like, hey, do you have the right .NET version? Do you have the right Xcode version if you're running it on a Mac? Do you have all the workloads? Do you have, well, all the things that you need to actually get started? And if you don't have it, it's a matter of pressing, yes, I want to install it. Boom, it does it for you, and you're ready to go. So that is pretty nice.
We love Maui check, Gerald. Like you
Right.
and me, and I think the community. Like it actually does more than just installing the runtimes. It actually does the check on your dev environment to make sure you have everything. If you let it, it'll just go and get all this stuff. And while you're going on with your Windows stuff, maybe I'll borrow like a minute from
Sure.
your thing, because like hack. Let's see. Hack Martfodder is asking if we can do stuff on Mac right now, and the answer is yes. The tooling is CLI, and there are some moving parts, but yeah, you can absolutely play around and install those workloads on a Mac OS and get things to work. Yeah,
absolutely. You can run it right now on a Mac and on Windows, but on a Mac it's a little bit more, well, painful, if you will, because you have to go through all kinds of CLI things, because Visual Studio for Mac 2022 is ongoing. I see David is already helping out here as well. It is coming. We're having versions, of course, internally. We can see some stuff, so it's definitely there. It's definitely coming. but it's not for you yet. So if you really want to try it on iOS right now, you have to stick to the CLI tooling, which is definitely possible. But that's all Visual Studio does, right? It just ties together a bunch of CLI tooling, and that makes it weird.
Okay, so Gerald, one more question for you. Okay, and I'm sorry to put you in a spot if I might here, but we're not going to kind of count your words. You're just live on the internet here. Maui check, and if you look through the tooling, like you started off with this like VS 2022. So we depend on this, but we are also looking at Maui being shipped in November. So does that mean VS 2022 also ships in November?
I'm going to be very, very honest here. I have no clue about release timeframes or whatever. That's not a lie. I really don't know, because I'm always confused about what I can or can't say. The only reason I'm saying that I have Visual Studio 2022, I feel safe for saying that, is because David does it in the chat. Because normally I don't say anything, because we have so much dog fooding, so using our own products going on. I never know what I can tell it at what time or when it's coming out. So I honestly don't know. But I think it's a fair
we're just
assumption.
messing with you. Yeah, we're
It's a fair
messing with
assumption,
you.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a fair assumption. Like, if you want to make this usable on a Mac, then I would say it has to be available before November.
Yeah, and like you said, like there are just like so many teams on this now. It's like Visual Studio team, .NET team, Maui team. Like there's so many kind of cooks in the kitchen, all working towards the same goal of lighting up things in November. So we shall see.
Yeah, absolutely. So I completely lost track of what I was telling. Okay, so all the workload stuff, that kind of stuff. Maui check, I was talking about that. So I think what I didn't mention yet is that Maui check will be supported at least for all the previews. So I think we're on roughly one preview a month. That's kind of like the cadence that we're doing things now. At least for like all the previews, Maui check will be supported. Maybe after that. But I think, the kind of the idea here is to steer towards like the .NET MAUI workload stuff and hand it off to that. But in the meantime, Maui check is a great tool. Also, again, if we're talking about like the macOS story now, the reason why I personally didn't really do it yet, because I'm on a Mac all the time and I really love like more the iOS stuff. So I tend to usually go there. But one of the requirements now on a Mac is to have Xcode 13 beta 1. So that's the one attached to iOS 15, right? All those new bits. So you have to have that installed, which is, a big install. I think it installs side by side, and it shouldn't mess with like your day-to-day development setup, but you never know what might happen. And I'm pushing out 2 videos a week on my YouTube channel, so I don't want to mess with that environment too much. So that's kind of the reason why I didn't do it yet myself. But it's all cross-platform, right? So if you build it on Windows and Android, it will look exactly the same on iOS. That's the idea. Okay, so new .NET MAUI capabilities. First, let's go into this link straight here, because I think I have it up here already. On the wiki, I think also for like running the command line tooling on Mac and whatever, on github.com/.net/maui/wiki, there is a ton of information. It's there. It's not really advertised or not easy to discover, but there is a ton of good information there. And one of which is like the status page. I think Javier just showed it in the previous version, and here you can see basically the idea here is the more green you see, the closer we are to being done. And you can see there's a lot of green already, because what this does is per control that is in there, we have the public API, so each property that has to be mapped from Xamarin.Forms to, or ported, I should say, from Xamarin.Forms to .NET MAUI. And you can see like if it is done for Android, iOS, Mac Catalyst, or Windows, and whatever the team has something done, they'll put a check mark in here and everything's done. So you can see like the status right here, you can follow. And also if you want to look into like your transition scenario from like your Xamarin.Forms application to .NET MAUI, is my control in there yet? You can have a look here and you can see if that stuff is already on here. I love showing this page because I think I did all the hard work putting this overview together back when I was on the team. And now they're just taking it and going with the credits. So I just want to show it because I'm proud of it. No, I don't know. Maybe they didn't use it. I don't know. Can't remember. So that is kind of what's going on. And for this preview, we have the gestures. So it's kind of funny. The video that I created for this update on my own channel, I said at the end, like, I see David is watching, so I hope I don't make him angry with this, but it's kind of boring to show the updates, right? Because it's everything that was in Xamarin.Forms, and now it's in .NET MAUI, but it still works and looks the same. But actually, that's a great thing, right? That it's boring, because that means that you can just take your stuff from Xamarin.Forms. That includes knowledge, that includes your code. You can put it in .NET MAUI, and it will work. So that's why it's good that these kinds of things are kind of boring, right? So we have the gestures now. I think we have this little demo right here. Where we can see the Weather 21 app, which is a little sample app that David has put together to show kind of like the progress here and all the things he's slowly implementing, all the new stuff that's coming out. And if you look closely here, you can see that he's tapping on this little widget right here. I think he's double tapping because of the code right here, and it will trigger a little animation. So that is something that you could do now that is implemented in .NET MAUI and supported right now. Another thing is clipping, which is funny. I'm kind of all over the place. I hope you can appreciate that. But the clipping, it reminds me of something that I was talking about with someone else. Like, I think this is new for .NET MAUI. And I said, I think there's nothing new in .NET MAUI. I think they're skipping some things, maybe. They're leaving some things out, although it's not much. But everything that is in here that will be implemented was already there in Xamarin.Forms. So people are kind of relearning what actually is included inside the box. And clipping was one of them, I think, that we got to talk about. So this is something that is natively in there right now, where you can, it's all about this little rounded avatar of David right here that is actually a square image. But of course, profile images, that's the internet law, has to be round. So you can do that now natively by just implementing this little image.clip. And I think the clipping, I don't use it too often because I'm not the best designer, graphic people interface thing. But I think you can do this on kind of every visual element. So you can clip basically all the elements on here, and you can say a radius and a center and do all the things, and you can end up with this rounded image. And I think, if you've been here with Xamarin.Forms early on, you remember that James Montemagno has this plugin, which is the rounded image plugin or whatever that you needed to actually do this. So, it's now in the box, and that's with a lot of stuff. We're just trying to obsolete all those plugins, and it's right here. So native alerts, another one of those things that you can't do without. It's just the display alert that you already know, exact same syntax by just looking at this. But those are now implemented in .NET MAUI as well. So you can see here, the screenshot is a little big, but if you click here on this more thing, you will get that action sheet, which shows like this on iOS. But of course, on Android, it will come up in the center of your screen, I think. And then whenever you press one, it will show you the native dialog box with a little alert right there. So that is supported right now as well. The other things, like I said, let me pull up the other link. So there's a few other controls layouts updated for Preview 6 for a complete list. Check out the commit log, but a few sweeping changes for other stuff are coming in Preview 7. So if we go back to the wiki, we don't just have the status here, but if you look here on the right, you also have the roadmap here. And if we look at that, you can see things are changing here. It's not set in stone, but you can see here for Preview 7, which is set for August, we can see that we have planned the app theme binding, also near and dear to my heart because I implemented the first version of that. Some layouts, cross-platform lifecycle events, borders, corners, frame. So basically all the other stuff. And then from here, it's hopefully just bug fixes for the release candidate, and then GA, and everything is ready, and the world will rejoice. So here you can follow along what is going on. Actually, what is this linking to? Is this, oh, it's already linking to pull requests. So there's a lot of stuff already happening here. That is cool. All right, so let me quickly check. I have the chat here on as well. Not a lot going on. Okay, cool. Hello from Bulgaria. Hello, Ivan from the Netherlands. Cool. So the other big thing, I think, and this is again kind of separate from .NET MAUI, but still it has to do a lot with it, is the single project. And it's kind of funny that we have the single project and Windows, which is, again, if you look at this from like the inside of Microsoft, I think this is three teams working on this, because we have the tooling, which makes the single project work. We have .NET MAUI, who wants to show this all in a nice single project, and we have the WinUI team or Project Reunion. Maybe that's even two separate teams who are doing all the stuff there, right? So this is again a couple of teams that need to bring all of this together, which is not a easy task to do, and so far they're doing great. But the idea here is that we will have a single project. So here we can see Hello Preview 6. This will be our single project, which has all the code for your application. And then based on if you say like, hey, I want to run this on iOS or Android or Windows or Mac OS, it's going to sort out all the bits that it needs to compile for that, how to do it, and it will give you that application. You don't need to worry about all the bootstrapping projects that you might have right now for Xamarin.Forms. The one exception right now, this should be fixed by November as well, is the WinUI one, which is still a separate project. Again, if you've looked at earlier previews, the WinUI project was actually two projects. So they already got rid of one. And now the WinUI should be part of that single project in the near future as well. Which is really cool. And actually more important, now that my eye sees this, is before, and also from Xamarin.Forms, you had to install like the NuGet packages, right? That's not needed anymore, because .NET MAUI will be inside of the .NET framework, .NET 6. I don't think I can say .NET framework anymore because it's confusing. But anyway, it's in the bigger framework. And you don't need to install separate NuGet packages anymore. Before, you had to do that, also for the .NET MAUI previews, but you don't need to do that anymore. You can just go into your CS proj, and you can add this node, use MAUI, and it will bring in all the things that you need for MAUI automatically. I think you can do the same thing. I've seen a video from James Montemagno, who is, if you're talking about celebrities, then he's definitely one. Let me pull up his YouTube, because he posted a video about this as well. So here's his channel, youtube.com, James Montemagno. Definitely check that out, because he has a ton of amazing stuff as well. But what he said, he's of course, he's also the man behind Xamarin Essentials. And Xamarin Essentials is just as well becoming part of .NET 6. Not going to be a separate NuGet anymore. All that stuff is going to be taken and put into .NET 6. And I think if you want to enable that, you just take use MAUI, and I think you have to make it use MAUI Essentials, and it will bring in all the essential stuff as well, and you can use that all the same. So that is pretty cool. Get started today. So la la la. Actually, let's just quickly do that, because I'm already talking for half an hour and I didn't show you anything. So here I have Visual Studio 2022 preview, brand new, super awesome. And if I go in here to the CLI, because I already started this little talk with like, .NET ecosystem. I like that. .NET. So in the chat, someone is saying .NET ecosystem, because I can't say .NET framework anymore.
Combine all the .NETs. It's just .NET.
Yeah. It's just .NET, but it gets confusing. Hopefully a few years in the future we'll get rid of this. But what you can do right now, I think if you can do .NET new, it will give you a list of all the things that you can do, right? Or at least some suggestions, right? So if you do .NET new, which is the command line for all the things, it's not just .NET MAUI. You can see here kind of like the popular suggestions. So we have an ASP.NET Core Web App, Blazor. You can do all the things, and then whenever you type in one of these names, it will generate that template for you, just as you would do file new project inside of Visual Studio. So you can now also do that for MAUI. So I see here .NET new list. You can see that there's a lot of stuff here. And we should also see, so here we already have Mac OS application, Mac Catalyst, iOS, and MAUI should, it's right here at the top where it belongs. Really good. I think it's because of the dot. That was smart naming. I don't know whoever did that, but that was good. So we have MAUI and we have MAUI Blazor. So we have a couple of templates right here. Now let me actually go to my desktop right here, because I like to clutter my desktop with all kinds of useless things. Test MAUI, I think I have that one, but let's make it Telerik just to be sure. Oops, see, I have a couple of those. There we go. And if I now do .NET new MAUI, It will just take a second. So this is ways faster than going to File, New, find the right template and whatnot. This is just creating the template. And if we now look in here, we have a couple of files. So here we have the folder for WinUI, some targets, which has to do with MS Build, and of course the solution file. So let me now just open that with right here, folder, desktop. There we go. Hey, oh, it's opening a folder. Oh, shouldn't have done that. Open solution, desktop. There we go. We can just open that solution in Visual Studio 2022, somewhere not loaded. That is awesome. Okay, this is project file cannot be found. Oh, so I think I know what I did wrong here. Let me try that again. I think I shouldn't have put the hyphen in. That will throw things off. So today I learned. Let's go back. Let's make a new directory. Maui Telerik, just one word. Maui Telerik, there we go. And let's do that again. .NET New Maui. You can overcome this by adding a -n, and then you can say the project name, I think, and now it will make the project name ASDLK, blah, blah, blah. Or if you just say .NET New Maui, it will just take the name from the folder and generate that. So let's try this again. Open project solution. Nope, that one. There we go. This should go better. Now it's loading the projects, right? So you can just open this on Visual Studio 2022. And here we can kind of see it's trying to reach out to my Mac so it can build the iOS apps. I'm not going to do that right now. And here you can see like it's kind of small, I think. I'm sorry about that. This is the single project thing, and this is like the WinUI project that we've been seeing also in the screenshot. And if I click this, it will automatically take me there. So if I go to actually the share project, you will see that it now has this use Maui node that I was talking about. So it will use that. And other than that, if you've not been looking at the previews, maybe you've been over this, but here you can see like new stuff like Maui image. So because this is all in one platform, on one project right now, they're also going to take care of all the image resizing for you. So you just put your image in for actually just one size, and it will take care of all the resizing for you. I think you can already do that for Xamarin.Forms as well. If you use the resizetizer, it will generate all the different image sizes for you as well. But this is now built in you. So you can just specify Maui image and boom, it's there. So if we look at the resources here, you will see that app icon. And that is just right here. You can have some options, some colors. And you also have the Maui splash screen. So we have kind of like a cross-platform splash screen right now. You can just say, I want to have a splash screen. And it's fairly simple, but most splash screens are. You can just say, hey, I want to use this image, which is an SVG, mind you. That's also something very new. And it will just place that image in the center. And you can specify a color here, which is the background color. And boom, you have a splash screen. Something that is, is relatively, for what it brings you, too hard to do right now with Xamarin.Forms. And right here is now just built in. This is the other kind of awesome thing. You can just say Maui image. So we have more Maui images. You can specify them one by one. But you can also say, hey, I have a bunch of Maui images under my resources, images, and then star. And it will go through the whole node from there to pick out all the images, and it will include them. So you no need to list them all one by one. Same thing for the fonts. I think I heard Javier talk about that as well. So custom fonts, just plug it in and it works. Here's some other technical stuff. I'm not going to bother you with that right now. And the really cool thing is that if we have this project right here and we go here at the top, you can see it lists my iOS local device, iOS simulator, remote, Android emulator, Android local device. So basically, based off this, it will look for what to compile, basically. And we can run it on a different thing. So
and Gerald, like you had mentioned before, like the WinUI project, that's also simplified. You don't have the package project separately anymore. It's just all one.
Yeah. Exactly. Before this, you had kind of like a package project. To be very honest, I don't even know what it does. I'm not that at home in like the whole WinUI stuff. But you had to run that one instead of like the WinUI one, which seemed kind of funny to me at least. So we already got rid of that one. That's smashed together, and now we just have the WinUI one. And we should be able to select the WinUI one. So that's the one project that we have to separately select right now. And you can just run it, and we should see like the .NET New template for a .NET MAUI app. I'm kind of worried that I see a little thingy here for the dependencies, but it seems to do okay.
Nothing like preview bits all over.
Exactly, because this Visual Studio 2022 is actually also not the preview, the public preview. So this is
it's an internal preview for you.
Exactly. So here, I think there's a couple of funny things going on here because this label should have looked a little bit better, and this button too. But again, preview bits. But you can see some things working here already. This is a button, I know that, and whenever you click it, you can see the count updating. So this is kind of like your .NET New MAUI application that you can start playing with. And if we look at, so it's kind of funny if you look closer to this WinUI project. You can see that it mimics exactly all the stuff that's in the shared project. That is because all the files in here are just shortcuts, just links to the other project. You can see, if you look really closely on your screen, probably. I don't think I can, does this zooming do anything? I don't think so. A little bit.
No, it is zooming, yeah.
Okay, cool. So if we look at here, you can see these little arrows here, which is the shortcut icon on Windows. So these are all just shortcuts to basically all the files in here. Oh, not this one, actually, because we have this platform thing. But this other stuff is. And that's the other interesting thing, right? So we have this platforms node here, which still holds your Android and iOS and Mac Catalyst, and in the future WinUI or all the other platforms. All the specific stuff is in here because we still need, this little plist file to specify some metadata. And I'm pretty sure that this platforms and the Android and iOS ones will get a cool icon, and you can just right-click on this iOS thing and say add a plist file or whatever. It will pick up on that context, and it will do all those things. But if we look at like the main page, this is where I come back to my boring demos. You can see it's just a scroll view. It's just a stack layout. It's just a grid. It's all the things that I can copy paste in here, basically. I just need to adapt this little namespace thing here, because now it says 2021 brand new MAUI, where it said 2014 with Xamarin, I think, before. So, these schemas are here. Just update a couple of namespaces and you're all good to go. I think there's a few properties that might have been renamed with some breaking changes. We'll figure those out. That's not hard. But, all the stuff is just here. So that's pretty cool. And if I now go back, I'm kind of afraid to do this. So that's why I was putting off with this. My Android emulators are very slow on this machine. Which is an old service book 2. So if it seems slow, it is slow, but it's not because of, the team not doing a great job. It's just because my machine is having a hard time keeping up with all of this. So I will keep running this on the background. I saw you popping up a message. So maybe there's a question or something.
Well, there are a couple of things, but maybe, we talked about Mac a little bit. So maybe I can actually, hang on. David is making fun of you. Why is your Windows thing not at the center?
Yeah, so I said I dog food almost everything, but I didn't like the same thing with the Xcode 13. I wasn't brave enough to install Windows 11 yet, and even if I would, I think I am OCD enough to just want to keep my start button on the left, David. So that's what
you can actually move it out. They made it a setting now. Yeah. So can I borrow like 2 minutes from you here, Gerald? Okay. So hang in there with me. I'm going to. Since we talked about this for a second, move this off to a separate screen. And hold on, where is my mouse? So I'm going to swap over with my screen just for a minute. Let's see. There you go. So you see my desktop here. So to Gerald's point, and to answer some of the questions that we had before, here I am on a Mac, okay? So the exact same thing that Gerald did. So if I do a .NET New list, right? you are going to get a whole list of things. Let me make this wider. So way up, you don't see the dot until you go all the way up. See that .NET MAUI, .NET MAUI Blazor. So the templates are right there, and that's exactly what Finally project is using on Windows as well. I think hack, I'm forgetting the handle here, but to the point about Xcode. So yes, they. I don't know if I can zoom in. Can I? Oh, there we go. No, it's making it worse.
Yeah, it's zooming in. It's zooming in.
Okay, so there's Xcode, there's Xcode beta. Okay, so they do reside side by side, but David actually corrected me. If you go, if you go get Xcode, the latest from Apple developer account or something, it's going to download beta 3, which is not quite what you want. You actually want beta 1. And so what you can do here is, if I can remember this right, it's Xcode select. And then you got to print the path. So this is what Mac OS is using the base Xcode for. Like, which Xcode am I using? So you got to change that from regular Xcode to Xcode beta, and then it picks up. MAUI check picks up on it that you have Xcode 13. And so here, let me pull up another window here. And if I go to, because I always forget the exact command. So you do need the target framework being switched over. This is the MAUI sample app, right? So if I copy this over .NET MAUI, let's just consider this running out on iOS. So exactly the same app that you saw Gerald running, I actually have this sample app pulled down. So if I go over here to my MAUI stuff, which is all of the previews that have been thrown at us. So this is preview 6, okay? And if I go in here, I've learned this new trick that I can open up a terminal at any folder, which is nice now. Just one line, .NET build, hello MAUI, that's it. So it's going to do the build, and now it knows how to use Xcode 13. It's going to do its thing and bring up the same exact app that Gerald showed you, maybe. It's thinking. Oh, there we go. So it comes up, and you can actually change the device ID. If you don't want the iPad simulator, you can switch it over to the iPhone simulator. But in a bit, it comes up, maybe. And still trying. There you go. So .NET MAUI Preview 6 running on Mac. So to answer some of the questions, yes, you can actually do this. So I'm going to stop here and bring back where you are at. So you can absolutely do this on a Mac. You just need to know your way around CLI.
It's a little bit more advanced. It makes you feel a little bit more like a developer, right? If you set your console to black and green letters, then it's the full experience. And David here adds, like, MAUI runs on iPad OS. That's kind of like the running gag, because iPad OS is like, it's a marketing term by Apple, because it's the exact same thing as regular iOS. So it runs on iPad OS, it runs on Mac OS, it runs on all the OSs basically, which is really cool. So yeah, here you can see, like, it finally came up with my Android emulator on my very, very old machine. David, thank you. And you can click here, the same thing. So you will see the exact same thing with this app from the exact same template. We've seen it now on Android, on iOS. That is really cool. So I think I'm about time. The one thing that I quickly wanted to point out is the other thing that I'm kind of doing. Oh, I see James is still here playing in the background. Thank you. Which is the Xamarin Community Toolkit. So that is what I've been spearheading with a couple of, actually with Javier, who was just on, Brandon Minnick, who wrote this blog post, Pedro, Jesus, who is here in the chat that you already called out, Sam, and Andrei Mishikovic, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. We've been kind of like working on the Xamarin Community Toolkit, which was born out of kind of like, Xamarin.Forms 5 is kind of the latest version of Xamarin.Forms as we know it. There was a couple of experimental things in there. And of course, we wanted to bridge the gap from that November to this November in 2021, excuse me. So, and we still wanted to add cool things to Xamarin.Forms. So that is why the Community Toolkit kind of came back, because the initiative has been there before. But now we actually released some cool new stuff with the experimentals that you might have known from Xamarin.Forms before. We've taken some of those in. We've took all those converters mostly and behaviors and effects that you have been copying over and over from your project to the next, because it's just this tiny piece of code, a converter that is not worth it to put into its own library. So you copy it to the next project, then you change it a little bit. Suddenly you have 2 versions and you go to the next one. And so it explodes. So we've taken those converters in. There's a lot of them in there. And we've put that in the Xamarin Community Toolkit. Now, at some point, someone asked, well, a lot of people actually asked me, like, hey, what is going to happen with the community toolkit when .NET MAUI comes? And I said, I don't know. We'll see if there's still a place for it. But what I didn't realize is that a lot of people have started to love the Xamarin Community Toolkit, and now they're dependent on it. They're building apps with it, which is really cool. But of course, that is also going to block them then. If they want to transition to .NET MAUI, then they also need to have the Community Toolkit, which has the same bits, but now for .NET MAUI. So that is kind of what this blog post is describing what we're going to do, because actually we're going to have 3 versions of the Xamarin Community Toolkit. We're going to have the one that is there now, which is going to kind of live the same life as Xamarin.Forms. So this is going to be maintained until November 2022. I'm saying it correctly now, 2022. We're not going to have like the major development. I think we're going to stop kind of like next month with like the bigger features. And from there, it's going to be also like bug fixes. And after that, or together with that, I should say, we're going to release a package that is kind of like the Forms compatible version of MAUI. So what we're going to do there is we're going to compile it against MAUI, but we're going to keep all the renderers intact. We're just going to say, hey, we want to use this Forms compatibility layer, and it will work and do all the same things. But now suddenly it's compatible with .NET MAUI. And the third one that's really exciting is basically going to follow the same pattern as the whole Xamarin.Forms .NET MAUI transition. Is going to be .NET MAUI native, if that makes sense. So there we're going to basically rewrite the whole library and use the handlers instead of the renderers and do everything even better and more performant. But what's really cool is that we're going to join forces with the Windows Community Toolkit that you might already also know. They've been out there for years doing great stuff. And there's an overlap, right? Because we have MVVM stuff, they have MVVM stuff, they have XAML, so they also have converters. And that's now all the same thing. So that is, we're going to combine forces with them, and it's going to be packaged as Community Toolkit Windows, Community Toolkit .MAUI, and Community Toolkit whatever other people can hook in. We will have separation of packages and things. But that's going to be really exciting. So we're going to sort out with them like, hey, what controls do they have that we can support, vice versa. And of course, what code do they already have that we can just get rid of, or, bring in code of ours that might do things a little bit better or different or whatever. So that is going to be very interesting as well.
Yeah, awesome. No, thank you for all that you and the community, like I know Pedro is there, you all do to make the community toolkit happen. And like you said, like people depend on it. So thank you for all the open source work. And I feel bad, like today it's been like one session after another where I can have each of you kind of go on for a whole day talking about all this stuff.
Yes.
But hey, we are trying to pack everything together in one day if we can. So Gerald, I want to thank you for taking the time. I know it's late after dinner time for you, but just kind of hopping on to show us some of the latest and greatest stuff with MAUI Preview 6. Exciting times. So thank you. Thank you very much, Gerald. We'll let you go and have a good rest of your day. All right.
Yeah, thanks. You too. Have a good stream.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And with that, we're going to let Gerald go and bring on my good friend.